Welcome to Tuesday Live. I am Omini Odan. The World Bank Ease of Doing Business report for 2018 placed Nigeria in the 145th position. With the report, Nigeria moves to the 4 progressive steps against the 169th position it was placed last year, talking about 2017. Nigeria is also placed among the 10 countries that improved on performance or reforms. The feat economic watchers attributed to the Buhari's administration economic recovery plan. To improve the business environment for global competitiveness, of note, many say is the executive orders rolled out in phases that include ease of doing business and local content aimed at addressing shortcomings to position Nigeria as a preferred investment destination, while entrenching transparency, tackle poverty, and generate more jobs. But how cooperative are Nigerians? Where do we see Nigeria in the next few months? Are there envisaged challenges? And what is the way out? Answers are more with those who should know after this background report by Justin Bemwe.
Years, several theories have evolved requiring Nigeria to have a quantum leap in order to be at par with advancements made by her peers in other parts of the world, especially in the development of science, technology, and innovation. As Nigeria makes effort to bridge the theory and practice gap, President Muhammadu Buhari in the first week of February 2018 signed an executive order to enhance local content in public procurement. This move showed the federal government's commitment towards strengthening the role of science, technology, and innovation in the nation's development process. The Presidential Executive Order 5 for planning and execution of projects, promotion of Nigerian content in contracts, and science, engineering, and technology is towards achieving the nation's development goals across all sectors of the economy. Experts in the sector have reacted to the revolutionary content of the order, which seeks to strengthen the patronage of made-in-Nigeria goods and services.
I will say it is about the best thing that has ever happened to this country in terms of engineering, science, technology, and innovation. And in fact, it is what is needed to provide a solid base for industrialization of the country. It is the only way in which technical know-how, knowledge will be domesticated from other countries into Nigeria for the economic development of the nation. Now, this executive order is not about engineering, science, and technology also alone. It cuts across other services and other professionals. Whatever services, whatever product that Nigeria don't have, and it needs from another country, strategies must be made as instructed and approved by Mr. President in such a way that subsequent production will be in Nigeria. Take for example, military facilities, including boots, uniform, and the rest of it. If anyone has to provide some specialized product to the military in Nigeria, he will bring only first batch. Subsequent batches must be produced in Nigeria in such a way that Nigerians will learn not only how to do it, but how to repair and how to maintain it.
Professionals and experts have analyzed that not only does the executive order remain consistent with the Buhari administration's ease of doing business policy, that it also enjoys the good fortune of the opportunity to learn from the modest gains and challenges following the Nigerian content law of the oil and gas industry. An exceptional act of nationalism. This is how some analysts have described the President's signing of the Executive Order 5, as it is to improve local content and secure jobs for Nigerians. Are Nigerian engineers, scientists, innovators, and technicians, as well as other professionals, ready for this task?
When you talk of local content, you are looking at it in primarily in a certain number of dimensions. One is, concerns the labor force, and Nigeria has adequate labor force in every aspect of construction, science and technology. And as a matter of fact, our scientists, engineers, and other technocrats are contributing very highly to the economies of many of the developed countries. And therefore, in terms of labor, we are ready. The second one is issues of materials, content that are used for in various aspects of our economic development. In the case of Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute, in construction. And we have abundant raw materials. We also have abundant innovation to meet, in many instances, as high as 100% of local content. The third aspect, which is absolutely important, is in the area of equipment and implements for economic endeavors. In the case of construction, we're talking of earth movers, cranes, and so many things. And in this regard, we have lots of innovations on the shelf, and the continuous abandonment of these innovations leads to colossal loss to the economy of the country.
We are blessed with human resources, natural resources, but I think the major challenge is willpower. If we really want to achieve this, then I think we can. With regards to capacity, we have the best brains in the world, all over the world. But harnessing all of these potentials is what I think we're lacking. What we need is to have the focus and the willpower to decide that, okay, we want to stop importing these products, we want to develop ourselves, and I think we can achieve it. It just comes down to the willpower. Like other countries, like China and the rest of the world, they decided to look inward, and I think that's what we need to do.
With the full implementation of the Presidential Executive Order 5, the Minister of Science and Technology is optimistic that a new Nigeria will be born, a nation of self-reliant, strong, prosperous, and capable of utilizing the huge material and human resources available for advanced development.
Executive Order of the President and Governance in Nigeria. That report puts us on track to commence discussion tonight on Tuesday Live. It's a participatory program. At some point, we'll open the studio, you put in your call, and when we get to you, turn down the volume of your set and go straight to the point and address us either to a question or your line of thought on the discussion. It's a full house, and I must say here, it's a lady blessed among men. It's a team of a lady and gentlemen tonight. I have Dr. Jumoke Oduwole. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Industry, Trade and Investment, Office of the Vice President. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Professor Nazifi Abdullahi Darma, Development Economist, former Director, National Planning Commission, and Head of Secretariat, National Economic Council. Welcome.
Good evening, Nigerians.
Umana, Managing Director, Oil and Gas Free Zones, Nigeria. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And very strategic here is a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Adekunle Mokoolu, President, Nigerian Society of Engineers.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Beautiful. Well, executive orders in Nigeria has come to stay. A couple of days ago, somebody was saying this has not been a common scene in Nigeria. Maybe we hear standing orders, but this is real executive orders. Starting with Dr. Jumoke, what would have informed or would have motivated executive orders in Nigeria, and how is it really ease of doing business in Nigeria?
Executive orders are a tool to deepen existing reforms. The very first executive order of this administration is on efficiency and transparency in the public and civil service. This shows the administration's determination to make sure that businesses receive the best possible service delivery from public and civil servants. So it's a tool for deepening the reforms. Any direction that the administration wants to pursue, it's actually a fast-tracking mechanism.
Okay, now, still on you, beginning from May 2017, when the Vice President, then Acting President, signed the executive order, can we say there is compliance among MDAs in terms of transparency accessibility, efficiency in the governance process?
Well, I'll say it's a journey. It's a very good question, actually. And, you know, what gets measured gets done. So what we actually did was, after 6 months, we produced a report, a 6-month report on implementation of the Executive Order 1 on transparency and efficiency. We had workshops with various MDAs, particularly about 40 of them that the PEBEC, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, works closely with. And we started ranking them by asking for monthly reports, and there was a template. And then, of course, validation from whistleblowers and private sector.
Okay, I'm happy that Omana Okonomana is here and is the Managing Director of Oil and Gas Free Zones. And this platform deals a lot with foreigners, even if it's a free trade zone where you do taxation either redefined and what have you. Since then and now, how far?
Well, thank you very much. I must say that my agency, the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, is one of the agencies that is participating in the East of Doing Business program. And you must understand that the free zone, by its very definition and concept, is a special area designated by law where laws that operate outside are suspended so that special incentives can be provided to attract investments. So what is now extended to the rest of Nigeria is something that we had been pursuing already within the context of our free zones. So when the executive orders were issued, it was a wake-up call for us in the free trade zones to do a lot better than what the other agencies in governments outside the free zone would do. So I must say that the whole idea of having a presidential executive order is a strong statement to all agencies about the seriousness and commitment of government to seeing this whole process through. You know, for a long time, we've always shouted about creating an enabling environment, but nothing concrete was put in place beyond the mere slogan, oh, that's government to create an enabling environment. But for the first time, you can see that a proper structure was put in place, backed up by the Presidential Executive Order. So the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council was put in place to manage and ensure compliance. And agencies are put on their toes. We submit monthly reports. Every agency has a focal officer that liaises with the Secretariat to ensure that there's full compliance. And only recently, agencies were ranked so that they could have feedback as to how well they had performed. And I'm happy to report, and I'm sure Dr. Joke Duwele will confirm that my agency made the top 5.
Yes.
In what position were you?
Yes.
Yes. In
top 5.
transparency, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
top
in
5
efficiency.
in terms of transparency and efficiency.
So which means if a foreign firm wants to come and do business in your oil and gas zones, if it took 1 week before, it could just be 3 days?
Yes, you know, we had already taken a number of steps even before the orders were issued. After I took over as managing director, we had a management retreat. We came up with a roadmap, engaged our stakeholders, and came up with timelines for service delivery. For example, in the past, it would take 21 days to issue a license. We're able, after engaging the stakeholders, to reduce that to 14 days. It would take 2 weeks to renew the license. We reduced that to just 3 days when you meet all the requirements. And to process operations, cargo operations within the free zone, we have a timeline of 48 hours. And we're totally committed to this. So what the executive orders did was to standardize what we had to do so that it would align with the formats they provided. So we now had to upload our service level agreements on our websites, which was upgraded. We produced a new brochure which provided all the relevant information as to the services we offer, the products we offer, the incentives available to investors, and what we commit to in terms of timelines for the delivery of licenses, permits, and services. Yes.
It sounds quite resourceful. I hope Umana is not trying to hijack this program to promote Nigeria.
No, they're actually
Well,
one of our
let's
test
go to
cases,
specific terms now.
Yes.
When the executive orders were passed or signed by then acting president, now vice president, it looked open-ended because it has to do with the public governance process. But the recent one by Mr. President is very specific. I'm taking on Professor Nazifi now. And let me pick on just two core areas.
Okay.
All procuring authorities shall give preference to Nigerian companies and firms in their award of contracts in line with the Public Procurement Act. It also entails prohibiting the Ministry of Interior from issuing visas to foreign workers whose skills are readily available in Nigeria. Now, given your pedigree, what prospects for Nigeria, given the recent executive order passed, signed by Mr. President?
Well, you know, we are a labor-endowed economy. The recent report released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicated that we have a very high level of unemployment. And therefore, the first aspect of your question relating to domesticating procurement of goods and services in Nigeria, I think will go a long way in expanding the capacity of the Nigerian economy to respond to the needs of Nigeria rather than foreigners responding to the needs of Nigeria. That is one. Number two, the more you source what you want domestically is an indication of an increase in aggregate demand. And that will give signals to existing producers to expand, possibly to employ more people. And once more people are employed, it transfers automatically resources into the hand of those individuals, which will go a long way in reducing this unemployment quagmire. But most importantly, which I believe is an important time for us to have this overall coordination. It is one thing for the executive order to demand for procurement of goods and services within Nigeria. It is another for us to have specific sector policies that promote domestic production of those goods that are required arising from the executive order. So I believe it is now time for us to complement this executive order with prioritized policy framework across various sectors, but most importantly, to promote domestic production of any good or service that is hitherto procured from outside Nigeria. And this is where particularly the role of National Planning Commission comes into being in terms of providing the coordination framework for that. That is one. Number two, it is important also to realize that when you talk about promoting technical expertise, you look at the quantum of the technical expertise that we have, particularly at the lower level and at the middle level. If you look at the construction industry, for example, now, a significant proportion of those that are providing the technical expertise, not at the highest level, but at the middle level, most of them are nationals of West African countries. If you are looking for good tilers, mostly they are Ghanaians or Togolese, a lot of those aspects. So I want to use this opportunity to passionately call, particularly on those governmental agencies, that now is the time to work as a team, not to work in silos. The National Directorate of Employment, the Small Medium Enterprises Development Agency, the Industrial Training Fund must work as a team consequent upon the executive order, so that as the executive order is being implemented, they will simultaneously improve the quantum of technical middle-level manpower that will automatically be required arising from the implementation of the executive order, so that we don't have an avoidable lacuna.
Beautiful. Now, that absolutely all the three respondents now have pushed three clear-cut arrows to the Nigerian Society of Engineers. And clearly, one of the core issue with the current Executive Order 5 is for planning and execution of projects, promotion of Nigerian content in contracts and science, engineering, and technology. Now, Prof has talked about quantum. He talked about middle level. Now, the concern by a lot of Nigerians, and the argument is raging, is, will this work? Are we ready? The load is more or less on the shoulders of our colleagues.
Yes.
Are we ready? Across board, are we ready?
First is to say we are ready, because we have been waiting for this kind of document for a very, very long time. And we have agonized about it, and we've been praying also about it, that one day there will be a document like this that will ensure that we can do things on our own and be proud of it. If for nothing, and be engaged during the day and during the night to work and put all our intellectual capacity and properties to work and our energy into building our country, because Nigeria is a beautiful land and we need documents like this to be able to drive it. Now, the first thing I want to say again is that, you see, we should be grateful to Mr. President Buhari, because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of determination to do this. Some of us who are not into the struggle of physical development of the country may not know that there are so many forces, even external forces, that goes against development of a country like Nigeria. Because everybody knows that Nigeria has potential, but very many people do not want that potential to be realized for the benefit of the citizens of this country. And so, great thing has happened. And another thanks to one of us, Engineer Dr. Ogbonaya Onu, who, with his team in the Federal Executive Council, was in the driver's seat for production of this document. And I want to say that this document is very, very comprehensive. As a matter of fact, it even went below university to secondary school and defining the curriculum that needs to take place. It got into even tax and everything, and established a council, for the monitoring. And that council, the chairman is Mr. President himself, and the alternate chairman is the vice president. What else do we need? Now, the other thing is that it even brought the Army Corps of Engineers into it, what they can do to be able to underpin this. So, what is left for everybody really is to look at this and think about how we can use this to develop the country and be hardworking to ensure that we just enjoy life by seeing people happy with the products that we are bringing in. The truth of the matter is this: this executive order cannot be implemented wholly by the government. it will involve all the citizens in Nigeria, and it has provided for it. But the thing is that this document has also done is to give sanctions to violators. This is the first time a document like this will be addressing that. But the sanction to violators, well, it's only limited to those in the civil service and the public service. But then, there was a country, okay, well, there is a country at one time, about 35 years ago, made an executive order like this. For violation, it's death. Yes. But that country today is so great that what that country was trying to, because they closed up, and we're trying to bring things and produce in their country and tell people to come and produce in their country, and they were exporting their goods and services. Now they are even going into so many countries now with carrot stick. We'll give you a loan. You will enter into your construction industry. But this particular document has even addressed that to ensure that within 5 years, you must domesticate whatever material that you're using.
Just to stay on you.
There's a lot in this document that we should be grateful for.
You have almost dissected the entire document now. But well-intentioned, good riddance, but compliance, delivery to specifications remains an issue in Nigeria today. Now, how prepared is the Nigerian Society of Engineers to comply with this? Because the problem basically is well-intentioned. Government award contracts, maybe the question would be, does this company have the capacity to deliver on this contract? You say yes, they give you the contract. It's rather than going to the field to deliver, comply and deliver to specification, you want to cut corners. How prepared, how ready are you?
We are very prepared. You know, like I said earlier on, when you are expecting something to happen, you've been, visualizing how you are going to implement it. Now, before now, it was a matter of, any contract below the level of this, they give the threshold. Well, the threshold in this document is 5 billion for contracts, projects, construction, and then 1 billion for goods and services. But then, how to get there to increase the capacity, in previous, those are policies anyway, were not stated. But in this one, it has been stated to the extent that it even provided for opportunities to go into banks and get single-digit, loan, interest on loans to be able to build capacity. In the case of Nigerian Society of Engineers, for example, our own is the intellectual capacity. We have them in abundance. Right now, we also have a program. Very soon, we've identified the engineers, Nigerian engineers in diaspora, and we are harnessing them. We are setting up branches, international branches of the Nigerian Society of Engineers.
So you're saying that the platform is set to fly with this?
Look, you'll be surprised.
Okay, let me quickly go to Omana. You're dealing a lot with foreign companies, a good number of them, and given the issue I raised here that the order says the Minister of Interior has been prohibited from issuing visas to foreign workers whose skills are readily available in Nigeria. How do you intend to leverage on this?
No, well...
I know your operational model is not the regular routine. You have some maybe exceptions here and there, but you could still leverage on this.
It's all about compliance because the incentives we provide in the free zone are founded on law. So the investors who come in, there are also obligations which are also founded on law. So if they're expected to meet other laws of Nigeria, then they have to comply. So that has nothing to do with the incentives we provide. Yes. So the other laws are valid to the extent that they are not in conflict with the laws of the free zone.
Okay, I'm happy that the SSU to the President on Investment is here. Now, given the yardstick you used in the first executive order, which you talked about, are you ready to flow along with this? In terms of, naturally, I should expect that you should be ready already to flow, because in terms of monitoring to ensure that this is, because this one is very specific.
So the two actually were monitoring.
Prof talked about if you want a common tiler in Nigeria, for instance, the readily place to run to is maybe Cotonou to get. So, and maybe we have a lot of them. And on a site, a construction site, because this is not all about, like he said, it's not all about Ministry of Works. It has to do with the private and public sector. A construction site is there huge, and we have Nigerian tilers who have the talent to do even better than the guys from Niger Republic or Ghana. And maybe the contractor or the site engineer deliberately ignores the local content and goes for the foreign content. What are you going to do about it?
The MDAs are going to have to comply with the executive order. That's exactly what it is. When Mr. President says this is what he wants the administration to promote, going against it is really going against the direction of the administration, and no MDA would want to do that. There are already sanctions provided within the executive order, and I'm sure it will be complied with.
Okay, let me take on you, Prof.
Okay.
Most policies come in Nigeria, and at times that we have policy somersaults.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's top heavy, and we have three clear levels there, three tiers of government. The local, the state, and the federal.
The federal, yeah.
If the state and the local are not properly, because one, this favors a lot the rural people, because most of these talented hands are based in the rural area. If they are not, if the local governments, the states are not flowing with this policy, will it work?
Partly it will not work. And you see, the reality in Nigeria is that if you look back at what has happened in the last 20, 30 years, every government that come with its own policies. We have this culture of lack of consistency and continuity. And that is why in 2011, at the National Planning Commission, when we conceived the Vision 2020 Economic Transformation Blueprint, a law was passed to the National Assembly to make sure that there is an element of continuity, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. So what we want in reality is the need for consultation, cooperation, collaboration, and teamwork. The federal government, at best, is controlling 50% of the Nigerian economy. If the states and local governments are not cooperating, there is nothing we can be able to do. And one important aspect of the executive order, which I read, which is very, very germane, is the issue of promotion of public-private partnership. For too long, we have been operating an economy that is dependent on meager resources. We have 180 million people. Our budget this year is just 26 billion US dollars. The federal government budget of India is $460 billion. The federal government budget of Brazil this year is 1.07 trillion. The federal government budget of Indonesia is over 164 billion US dollars. And a significant proportion of this funding is provided by the private sector. But the fundamental question that we need to ask is, why is the private sector partnering with these countries relative to Nigeria? Perhaps the best answer is, these countries have fully packaged public-private partnership policies that are really attractive and are devoid of conflict of interest. And it is an important clarion call now for the Infrastructure Concessions and Regulatory Commission to wake up from its deep and deep-rooted slumber, review the public-private partnership policy, and we also use the opportunity to passionately call on the National Assembly to review the law relating to ICRC, so that at the end of the day, the meager resources that we are spending on our federal budget will become an appendage of just one ministry. And let me also give you an example. Between 2017 to 2020, the Indian government, through public-private partnership, is modernizing the Indian railway system to be able to carry trains that can run for 150 to 200 kilometers. They are spending 141 billion US dollars. That money is not coming from the government of India, it's coming from private entrepreneurs. People are rushing to these countries not because they like the faces of those individuals, but because they have had fully structured public-private partnership projects that are transparent, that are extremely cost-effective. And I think we need to have realistic conversations as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to help Mr. President with the implementation of these executive orders, because the way we are structuring and costing our projects, nobody in his right senses will come to this country. Okay. The resources that we are having are so insignificant. $26 billion. The University of California, Los Angeles, averagely in the last 10 years has been spending over $20 billion. It is a sad commentary on all of us as elites. We need to put our thinking cap so that this economy can move to a realistic emerging economy that we all desire to have.
You want to add to that?
Yeah, you see, that
question, two fundamental things.
Yes, the question you asked is very, very genuine. And I want to add to it to the extent that the document that we are discussing today, I tell you, is the first of its kind. In the sense that most of the things that we were, because I think they did it out of experience, because there have been so many of them, you know. And the first one I know about, 1992, second one, 2015 or thereabout, and then this one. But they were just policies. Now, the thing is about the leadership. The kind of person that is driving it is what makes a difference in anything. For example, the Nigerian Society of Engineers wrote Mr. President 3 weeks ago that we want to develop the rural areas through volunteerism. Okay, we want to go from the rural areas and come out and start setting standards for our infrastructure from the rural areas. Now, we wrote to Mr. President that we want to do community engineering and we want to partner with government so that our engineers, particularly the young ones, you know, can do things free and be able to, you know, increase their capacity on infrastructure, the best global standard, so that others can now say the rural areas, we can unlock the values in them, make them grow. Not for agric. There are some rural areas that can go on industry, produce things and so on and so forth. Within 1 week, Mr. President Buhari replied me to say, oh, good thing you're doing. Then introduced us to NSC, to the Minister of Agric and Rural Development and Minister of Science and Technology. What else do you want?
Are you on track already?
We are on track. This community engineering, by the time it starts, most of us will not live in the city because the smell for the city is not, not good enough.
I'll come to that. Prof raised two fundamental issues here, and one of it has to do with visibility. Giving visibility to this executive order by Mr. President, because some persons will say, I'm not aware. So quickly, let me ask Dr. Jumoke, do you have plans to give unfettered visibility, maybe through conferences, to educate Nigerians across the sectors, private, public sector, to know that a meal has been served? It's just for you to take your portion and run with it.
The reason why we're speaking here this evening is because 5 executive orders have been passed within the last 9 months by this administration. Each executive order has a home ministry and is being driven with a communication strategy. but impact is really what it's after. Impact is what it's all about. For example, Executive Order 1 on efficiency and transparency, getting the validation from the private sector that this is being done. Local content, Executive Order 3, linked with Executive Order 5 on local content, making sure that the procurement process, the appointment, the employment of experts, all those tying into feeling the impact. Both Executive Order 2 on budgeting and budget implementation and Executive Order 4 on taxation, they're all driven to make sure that the economy is competitive and that we create jobs and alleviate poverty. It's a holistic plan, and it takes us to the ERGP and the priority of this administration.
Quite intriguing. He talked about getting ready. Engineer Adekunle, the way he has talked about this document, I feel challenged. He has it by his fingertips.
Yes.
But the amazement is, we talked about domiciled in some MDAs.
Yeah.
Now, a situation where you go to a schedule officer in an MDA and it's completely bereft of what the order is talking about.
No, they know.
Do you have plans to sanction this kind of persons?
They know. See, for Executive
Because
Order
that
1,
would be a problem.
we had workshops. In fact, the first of the workshops, the first session, was attended by the Vice President. We had a particular cadre of the civil and public service, and he spoke to them directly. He spoke to heads of agencies and ministers, permanent secretaries, before he even signed the executive order, that these are the expectations for the first 3 executive orders. So it didn't take anybody by surprise. Then we had large workshops. Then we broke into smaller workshops, and at least for
I'm excited with this, but quickly, let's quickly take this caller. Our first caller on Tuesday Live tonight is Yusuf calling in from Kaduna. Hello, Yusuf. You're on to Tuesday Live.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Go ahead.
All right. Yes, I'm so fascinated with the executive order being signed by the Mr. President. But the angle I really want to ask this question is the executive order just targeting on one side or is all inclusive? Because in Nigeria we have one of the best defense industries. They set up the same time with Brazil. I don't want to go into the details of how it comes into this. But can this executive order be duplicated, or is it not in line with the defense procurement and whatsoever? So that is just my question, sir.
Thank you very much. Now, I'll take that question, but let me quickly take one other thing Prof's raised was the scenario of PPP, private-public partnership. And I know critical to this is we are aware that the oil sector, the gas and free trade zones, the ports are already fully engaged PPP-wise. So will you think this will impact seriously on your operations?
No, well,
and by extension, other areas?
No, well, to go back to Prof and make my own contribution, we cannot put the cart before the horse. Creating an enabling environment means you provide the necessary structures to drive even PPPs, concessions, and so on, and build confidence. That is key. And when you are assuring the private sector that, look, service delivery in government on the part of MDS, the story will change in terms of transparency, in terms of efficiency, and there are benchmarks. You go to their websites, they outlined, there's a list of what they are offering, which you can assess and measure their performance. There are numbers you can call if you are not satisfied. So there's a procedure for escalation to ensure that when feedback is received. So if you take Executive Order 1 on transparency and efficiency, clearly it is to change the story about Nigeria. And already we're seeing the results in terms of the World Bank ranking on ease of doing business, just within a few months. And it would get better and better. And when you also now hear that Nigeria is listed as one of the 10 best reformers, countries who are pursuing reforms, again, it speaks to what is happening now. So I believe that by the time all of this take root, then what Prof was alluding to, it's only a matter of time. This would also happen. And then you take Executive Order 002 on preparation of budgets on a timely basis, and again ensuring that that should be done while also promoting accountability. That is key, because that is where it all starts. And then supporting local content in public procurement, the third one. Again, that is also to help in the diversification of the economy, to promote non-oil exports and foreign exchange, help in stabilizing the Naira, and so on. So when all of these structures, because like Doctor said, it is a package. And when you have all these linkages in place, and then you have built confidence, the private sector certainly will come on board to deal with government. But I agree with Prof.
Okay.
Governments cannot do it alone. Certainly government cannot do it alone. The way to go, and which is also the way most of the countries who succeeded took, is to lean on the private sector and raise funds through the private sector by getting the private sectors to be involved in providing core infrastructure, airports, roads, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Now, I know you want to react to Yusuf's reaction, first caller, but quickly, Miletus is standing by from Adamawa. Hello, Miletus.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, my question...
Can you please speak out a bit? You're low.
The issue of this fuel problem, sir.
Hello? We cannot hear you.
Yeah, I said that my question is on this fuel scarcity.
Okay.
So my question is like this, sir.
Go ahead. It seems we lost that call.
Okay, well, you know, just to speak briefly about PPP. PPP is not as easy as people think it is. But it's a system that World Bank is trying to crouch such that infrastructure will be sustainable in any country. And for example, I'm a World Bank certified P3 professional. During the course that I attended, it was very clear that before you can do PPP, there must be a level of stabilization of both your economic and political, process or structure in the country. And so the citizens should be able to pay for the services they are going to consume, okay? Or the government will be able to pay on behalf of the citizens, or joint, payment. So the citizens, they must first be enabled to appreciate the particular, infrastructure you are trying to give them. If not, maintenance will throw the whole thing, the whole process, the maintenance cost will throw the whole thing out of the window. But having said that, you see, we need to be patient with ourselves in this country, because our political history and our culture mixed together does not make our metamorphosis, to a great nation to be the same path like other countries that we are comparing ourselves with. Okay? So
Okay.
it is very important for us to just say, okay, look, what do we have now? Let's run with it.
Okay.
And like you said, and rightly so, in this particular document, for example, it talked about shaking hands without gloves with the local government and the state government, which is the responsibility of those in the federal. But more so, all professionals. You see, in any country, it's the professionals that will drive whatever the government wants to do. The government will just create the opportunity. It's for each professional. So that, for example, Nigerian Society of Engineers now, with this, I will just go, look, Mr. Minister, you are not doing what you are supposed to do. And there's a council for monitoring and evaluation. I'll write to that council. Something will be done. So, and this is the way to popularize it and own it. Nigerians must own these other five.
Okay, let's take this call from Joseph if I get to Prof. Joseph calling from Port Harcourt. Hello, Joseph. You're on to Tuesday Live.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, let me still contribute about this expatriate quota you make mention of earlier about, federal government trying to see how they can make use of the local content. That is the know-how we have. You just make mention of tilers, something like that. I want to say this. How can federal government identify the expatriate that those people do and bring them to the country in the name of expatriate, while most of them are just mere masons? And when they come to Nigeria, it is Nigerians that will even teach them how to do the work. For instance, the MD seated with you there, he works, I think he's the MD free trade zone, which means on it. Most of the vessels that come there, are they black people that are operating it? It's expatriate, and we know that we have black people who are stranded in Port Harcourt that can do that more than what we are seeing there.
Okay.
The craze, everything. So how can we sincere try to use our own human capital to develop our own state? Because they will be trooping in from Morocco, Korea. Most of them, they don't know anything. Most of us, we know it better than they do, and we are stranded. Yet when they come, our people will give them cars, they will give them what, but when they come to site, we teach them what to do.
Thank you so much, Joseph. You have made your point. I think Joseph has clearly spoken to the fact that the Minister of Interior has been prohibited from using visas, giving visas to foreign workers whose skills are readily available in Nigeria.
Yeah,
I think, Prof, you were to make a point.
Well, the point
before I give a generic question, because I have a generic question.
The point I'm trying to make is that the reality is that every single economy in the world operates on the basis of expectation. And economies work on the basis of complementarities and support. What one sector is doing is likely to become the input of another sector. When you create massive infrastructural project in any country using PPP, you are unleashing resource injection into the economy that will automatically translate into disposable income of millions of people, and therefore improving their affordability for the services that you are trying to render. And let me give you a simple example. Let's say, for example, the federal government, based on the APC manifesto, that it has promised to deliver 1 million houses per year. Now, let's assume that the federal government is even going to construct 100,000 houses in each state of the federation. That will give you 3.7 million houses. He is an engineer, and we know that for every single house that you want to construct, averagely, you will employ 15 people. Those people are supplying labor to you. What you are paying them represents disposable income to them. And beyond that, for any construction activity, particularly in housing, there are over 17 different sectors that will be unleashed in terms of improving their productivity when you do that, beside the over 30 sub-sectors that will be employed arising from housing construction. Now, this is just one aspect of overall infrastructure. So, for me, as far as I'm concerned, The reality is that we have a public-private partnership policy that is irresponsible and that is outdated. And I'm using this opportunity. I'm using this opportunity to call on the ICRC, Infrastructure Concessions and Regulatory Commission, particularly because of the specific mention in the Presidential Order 5 that we need to promote mutually beneficial public-private partnership policies. We don't have the resources. Look, even if the price of oil will go to $200 today, at most, what we can be spending is not more than $100 billion. I told you, University of California, Berkeley, averagely in the last 5 years, is having a budget of $20 billion US. Our total federal government budget is $26 billion. We have 180 million people, over 40 million people unemployed. We need to massively inject resources into the economy so that we create massive activity that can employ Nigerians massively so that we diffuse the time bomb that is waiting to explode, arising from massive unemployment that characterize our economy because of inaction on the part of we elites, because we are not putting our thinking up to do what is right.
Okay. I'll come with a generic question, but let's take this call from Kabiru. Kabiru is calling from Zaria, Kaduna State. Hello, Kabiru.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Can you speak out, please?
Yes, good evening. I'm Mr. Kabiru calling from Hawane Extension, Zaria.
Go ahead.
Okay. I've had the discussion. Hello, can you hear me?
You're quite low. Can you speak louder, please?
Yes, I can speak louder. I've had the conversation. Let's say if you take a look at what folks said, let's say I'm with Prof. If you take a look at how our economy is going on. Hello? Hello?
Hello? Go ahead. We're listening to you.
Okay. So I'm with Prof. By taking a look at what they see, if you take a look at such countries, how they have been developed now, and how our budget is going on concerning this engineering and the rest, there is a lot of things there. So though at the end we see that this document is different from the ones that have been brought earlier, so we pray let everything go smoothly and successfully. So that's my contribution.
Okay. Thank you so much. Well, we'll continue the program. The program again is Tuesday Live, and our focus tonight is Executive Order of the President and the governance process in Nigeria. We'll take a break now and be right back.
There's love in the air. Valentine is here. Sononi Chinese Restaurant brings a Valentine's Day buffet special for you, your family, or that special someone in your life. Do you know that with just 7,000 naira, you get to eat anything you want? With 7,500, it comes with a glass of champagne. What's more, it's even cheaper for kids at 4,000 naira only. Sononi Chinese Restaurant Valentine Buffet Special. A romantic getaway with amazing gifts, music, and so much more. From 4:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Located at Zito Court, Oshobo Close, off Emeka Anyauku Street, Area 11, Gariki, Abuja. For reservation, call 0806 095 8818 or 0805 107 2675.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, so plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Good to know you are still on to Tuesday Live on the network service of NTA. Beyond the phone calls and the social media handle, we went to the streets to get views from Nigeria to enable the panelists here also react to them. Let's listen to the Nigerians on the streets.
For starting, I would say they are making efforts.
All those people that are coming outside the country to invest in Nigeria, what they normally check first is the security of the country. If the country is not secure, they will not want to come. And moreover, the consistency of the government, is the policy going to be consistent? These are some of the things that these people that are coming will look for.
That's a good one. To me, the cost of doing business in this country is very, very high. It will really encourage the small-scale businesses to grow, in whichever way whichever business each one of them engage himself. If there is those kind of encouragement, it will help them, it will boost them, it will strengthen them, and from that it will reduce the rate of unemployment in Nigeria.
The federal government policy for ease of business is only for multinational business companies.
I must say, quite a concern by Nigerians, and that puts me to put across the generic question, starting with, let me start with the prof. Now, given the reactions from the public, phone calls, and the well thought out issues you have raised here, is there cause for Nigerians to have fear about what we're discussing?
Well, certainly the fear on the part of Nigerians may have arisen because many a times when we undertake public policy, it is usually deficient of a coherent communication strategy. Most of the policies and the actual objectives and directives of the policies are mostly known to us elites, but it is not usually cascaded down. So I think the challenge now is for these executive orders to be publicized as much as possible so that the ordinary citizens whose impact is targeted at will be able to know exactly what it is and therefore have positive expectation about the executive orders and possibly give their lending support. But most importantly also,
is for us as citizens, particularly those holding public sector responsibilities, to realize that Nigeria is an emerging economy. We are in 21st century. The journey is a race. Other countries are making monumental changes in the way they run their economies. Nobody is waiting for us. Our population is growing. Our demands are growing. The expectations of the citizens are growing, arising from access to information across the globe, courtesy of improvement in communication technology. So it is high time now for those that are in public sector saddled with the responsibility of making policy to be able to work as a team. Because the unfortunate thing that characterizes most governmental actions and failures is that institutions that are saddled with the responsibility often work in silos. And we cannot be able to achieve anything as a country without working as a team. If institutions at the federal government level work as a team, they transfer that teamwork spirit to the state and local governments, and together we can work as an economy to move this economy forward to the desirable level. Look at the executive order. It makes specific mention about the government desirous of providing intervention fund for technical education. 40 years ago, virtually every state in this country have functional technical colleges. The ideal thing is for those technical colleges to provide the desired manpower, technical manpower, plumbers, mechanics, painters, and all sorts of middle-level manpower, because that is where we require the needed manpower for take-off for industrialization. But unfortunately, that has been abandoned. Now, if you unleash massive infrastructural spending, the problem that we will have is how do we get the massive millions of manpower that we require in order to implement that. Just take the issue of housing. Just one aspect of that. So it is now high time for those at the federal government level, as the state government level, to work so that as the executive order is taking place, as demand for technical manpower is increasing, we should also be able to make provision for requisite manpower training in order to cope with the increase in the demand for technical manpower. Coupled with the fact that we need to complement it with attractive policy framework in such a way that our young people will not be so much interested in getting a university degree, but they will be ready to go into vocational and technical training because it pays them to be able to do that as a result of a reward system that is attractive, just like what we see in most other developing and developed economies.
Okay, let me take, I'll come to you. Let me take up Umana, because somebody has raised a concern from Port Harcourt and I specifically mentioned, although he has addressed it, but just for him to clear the air, he has tied it to the fact that Nigerian laws are there, and within the ambit he operates, the laws will justify how he functions. Now, I imagine Nigerians are watching us, and tomorrow maybe a group of youth beseech his office to say, there's an executive order on local content. You must sack all the expatriates and get us involved. Can you, just to educate them, to understand it better?
Well, thank you.
Because the understanding from his reaction is, local content has been passed, so sack everybody and let us function.
I made the point already, and I said, yes, we provide incentives for investors, but those investors also have the obligations to comply with our laws. And so if we have a law or policy which stipulates that a job that a Nigerian can do, a company cannot bring in an expatriate, a foreigner, of course, we will ensure that the companies comply with that law. So, but it has to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, when we have specific reports, we'll deal with those reports. Going back to what Prof also said, and to your other question about whether this will be sustainable, I think that if my agency participates in this process, and this is why I am optimistic that the story this time will be different because of the structures in place for review, for monitoring. And I did say that the agencies have focal officers who deal with these issues on ease of doing business, and they submit monthly reports. And don't look at only one or two executive orders, maybe 4 and 5. We had other ones. And those other ones are very important, like one which has to do with the enabling environment, transparency and efficiency. The foreigner who wants to come into Nigeria, how long will it take him before he can get a visa? That can make a lot of difference. What is his experience at the entry point when he's going through the ports? The importer, what is his experience in getting his goods into the country in our ports? The exporter, what is his experience? These are areas that Nigerians themselves can speak to, whether there's a change or there has been no change. And I find friends who tell me now that, look, registering a business today in Nigeria, the story is different because the whole process is automated. So Nigerians also have the opportunity, because it is impacting on Nigerians and on companies, to see whether indeed there's a change, there's a difference is being made. Outside even the fact that the World Bank, in their own assessment, has affirmed that indeed we are making progress.
Okay, I'll take a different leg, but let's quickly take this call by Abdullahi. Abdullahi is calling from Adamawa State. Hello, Abdullahi.
Hello, good evening, sir. How are you? Hello?
Go ahead.
My question is pertaining the engineering aspect of Nigeria, the way the contracts are being awarded. So from if you can see, why is it that most of the relevant or I would say important contracts are not being awarded to the Nigerian engineers? You see, like the building of bridge, the road, you see, is not being awarded. Is it that the Nigerian engineers or engineering companies cannot afford the equipment of doing the construction, or is it that we don't have equipped engineers in Nigeria to do most of the major infrastructures?
Okay, thank you, Abdullahi. Well, it's instructive that the question goes to you.
Yes. I'll answer the question, but let me speak to the generic question that you asked.
Very important.
You see, before this document, because of my privileged position, then I was deputy president last year of the Nigerian Center of Engineers. It's only 1st of January. No, 2.
2 years, okay.
Yes, so I was waiting for 2 years to be president. Our own is automatic. So, like, they've elected the person who will take over from me, last year.
Okay, there's a succession plan.
So it's a succession plan. So I was privileged to be a part of those, who really did some workshop on this document. Now, and we were led by the Minister of Science and Tech, Engineer Dr. Bunaya Onu. Now, there was wide consultation. Everybody, that will make an input towards ensuring that this works, they were engaged. And so it is not like before. And I think the administration was learning from past administration that, they said they wanted to do it, it didn't work. What went wrong? So that experience is into this. The other thing is that we have, like I said, we are just developing. Metamorphosis is all about life. You see, we have to create attitude of owning what we have. You see, and who will implement it? Are the citizens. So, and you do not necessarily have to be in government before you can implement and help government to implement policies. Like I said, many of us can be whistleblowers if we know that it's not going well, instead of carrying placard. Placard, by the time you carry placard, maybe it's a level of, oh, you've exhausted all the medium of expressing, tabling of grievances. But this one, you can just report that this particular thing is not going on well. So you have to, so Nigerians will have to own it. The first is to read it, okay? Then the next thing I want to talk about is what has Nigerian engineers been doing? Look, 2 years ago, okay, precisely 3 years ago, we did an infrastructure scorecard. What's the state of our infrastructure in Nigeria? I think we gave a D minus. This year, last year, we do it every 2 years. So last year we did another one, and it was not so palatable. But all these things were, prompting government to do something. And I like the way this administration is tackling problems of Nigeria. For example, let me give you a quick example. Just today, okay, I was invited to a stakeholders meeting of the eligible consumers that would take the excess capacity 2,000 megawatts of electricity. And we're all there. Those in generation were there, those in the transmission were there, the distribution companies were also there. And we all talked and so on. And we were able to get a way forward, we were able to be informed and so on. That is the way to run government in a democratic setting. And that's the reason why I said that our political processes will affect the way we do things. When our democracy keeps on deepening, the citizens themselves, they will know that they are in government, but they are not in power. Okay. The people that are in power are the people that we voted for. Now, Nigerian Society of Engineers also have formed a union, a MOU, partnership with the builders and building, construction and skilled artisans association. They were so happy about it because we want to just use them for regulation and enforcement and to be able to flush out quacks, in the various construction industry that we have in the country. So that is going to help us a lot. And we've mapped out how we go. So we are going to sell this idea to the artisans that this is for you to thrive. Then the next point is that those students, for example, they have something to look forward to. And because of that, we are creating what you call pilot schemes to showcase what this thing, can bring up. We want to take a place and do something according to the best specification at the lowest cost, so as to encourage people to embrace this government policy and then be able to tell others, look, that Nigerian engineers, they were able to build that bridge. Okay, why do you have to go to this and that and that and that? And the good thing also in this particular document is that, before now, somebody can write drawings in annotation in foreign language. This one prohibits it.
Yes, okay.
And all in all, I want us to have faith in ourselves first, in our country. This is like a love letter. February is a love month.
Okay.
This is like a love letter to Nigerians. It's not really, life is not really about making money. It's about making things better, making lives better and making better things. That's what life is all about.
Okay.
So, if you are looking at this, I want to make money, you may make the money and not enjoy it. But if you make it as, I want to develop this country, honestly, you will enjoy your life.
Okay. Let me come to Dr. Jumoke. Regulatory framework. I'm also amazed that Mr. Mandan emphasizes on law. I don't know, are you a lawyer? He talks a lot about law.
Well,
Basically,
my agency is a regulator, so.
Oh, okay.
So
regulatory framework is paramount here. The executive order has been passed. Is the National Assembly carried along? Is the judiciary carried along?
Yes.
It's possible if they are not carried along, they could be seen as a cock in the wheel of progress.
No, they are. They
Okay.
are. So from when the PEBEC was established in 2016, we started working. It's a collaborative project across the board. You have the Vice President chairing the council. You have the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment as the Vice Chair. You have 10 other ministers. Then you have the CBN Governor, the Head of Civil Service. You have high-level representatives from the National Assembly, from Judiciary in Lagos and Kano State, and from private sector. So you have a cross-section of all the stakeholders that should be in the room when these issues are being discussed, because many of the issues are cross-cutting. So the executive order was signed to underpin a lot of the reforms that are already being implemented. And from internally, with Servicom, the monitoring and evaluation is key, and of course the sanction management and awarding. We had an award ceremony in December, recognizing those agencies, those MDAs that worked very hard at reforms. You may have seen it in the press. Now, on the other side, we have a web-based application called PEBEC.report. We've been testing it for the last 8 weeks. November and December, we tested it. The application is working perfectly well. We've been working with the MDAs. We took 8 as pilots, working with their back
Did you
ends.
mention the judiciary here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The Chief Justice of the Federation attended an extended council meeting in September, and he has a representative on the council. But we're working very closely with judiciary, also in Lagos State and Kano State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take this call from Omar. Omar is calling in from Berin-Kebbi. Hello, Omar.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm calling from Berin-Kebbi. You see, permit my ignorance on this issue. I'm a layman, honestly. To the extent that I don't even know the difference.
Can you speak out, please?
And executive directives. What is executive order? What is executive directive? A few months back, Mr. President gave executive directive or executive order to end fuel scarcity in Nigeria. And to me, the order has not been carried out. And up to now, there is no sanctions. Is that how order can be carried out without any sanctions? And if there is sanctions, what type of sanctions had been arranged for any executive order to violate us? May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Umar. Well, Umar has raised a point there. But under concern, if we are parochial in the process, in the course of implementing this, is it possible it could be challenged? One, we have the problem of indigenship in Nigeria. Okay, let me use Mr. President's state, for instance. Katsina State. The governor of Katsina State or the administrator of Katsina State, as the case may be, there's a contract to construct a road, and truly, I'm not saying it is the case. By chance, a particular area of construction is not available in that state, and they insist because it is Katsina State, and they know that the next state, which is Kaduna, is it? There's available capacity. They will not go there. They insist. Will it not jeopardize it?
No. You see, generally, from my understanding, is that this executive order, as it is supposed to provide opportunity to every single Nigerian, anywhere he is.
Not to operate in silos.
Not to operate in silos. You see, it is for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not for the Federal Republic of any state. Let us get that clear. Secondly, whatever is the situation, Nigerians are the actual beneficiaries of this executive order. The key challenge with this executive order is for every single Nigerian to see himself as a key implementer of this executive order and see what contribution can he make towards its own success. And I'm also emphasizing here continuously that the keying in by the states and local government is important. I have said earlier, there is a specific provision in the order for the government to provide funding for vocational and technical training. It is now an opportunity for the states and local governments to put their thinking cap, see how they can revive vocational and technical training so that the younger people that we have in the states can now have skills, and that once the economy pick off, which we are positively expecting that it will pick up, the opportunities that will come up will now be available to as many Nigerians as possible in as many states and as many local governments, so that the implementation and the benefits of the executive order will be all-encompassing and participatory, not isolationist in perspective.
Okay. Is there cause for people to sit on the fence on this?
On whose side?
Any of the sides. Any of the sides.
No, well, I don't think so. I don't think so. And when you look at the various parameters, what this council is dealing with, which covers access to credit for SMEs, access to electricity, enforcement of laws, sanctity of contracts, and so on. Because the way I see it, if I am an investor, why would I rush into a PPP agreement if I am not sure that it will be respected? When it is signed by all parties, you can say yes, it will be enforced, or when there's a disagreement, there's a mechanism for the resolution of the dispute. All of this add up to determine whether there's an enabling environment or not. And these are the issues that the council is addressing. And this is why I was trying to tell Prof that I support the PPP approach, but there are certain things we must put in place to build confidence. And this is what the whole point about the ease of doing business. Because if you check on their checklists, all of these parameters are being addressed by various agencies, and as she explains, in a manner of a collaboration that brings all parties to the table, including the private sector, including even state government, because I know Lagos State and Kano States are involved in driving this process. Because when the World Bank is doing the assessment, it is not only federal government, it is Nigeria. Is it possible for investors to have access to land? If they're applying for title, which is the business of state governments, how long will it take them? And if it's not working out, then it is about Nigeria. And the investors would complain that it is not working. So this is why even state governments are involved in the process.
Okay, let's take this call from Ajayi. He's calling in from Lagos. Hello, Ajayi.
Yeah, hello, to the life.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay. I've been listening to you since you started the program. Then you try to ask a question from the engineer. Then you...
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, at the beginning of your program, you have the engineer a question. Then how does the Society of Engineers prepare it? That will have to be for the executive order. Fine. And I think that the professor actually daily house on course actually of his own money. And he tries to look at it that how government can help us to develop that will have to be the technical education in Nigeria. I happen to be a product of technical school, and I am an engineer today. But I was expecting that we have to be my engineer to come out plainly, then to try to explain to us that there's a need for the government to come out with a plain policy, with a clear policy on how technical education is going to be developed in Nigeria. Because if you look at it, then today, in most of the construction centers you will go to, then you will see that the foreigners have loaded the place. They are either Ghanaians or the Benin. Then what are we going to do? Then concern our same youths that are roaming about, then into fraudulent activities, having nothing to do. Then, and therefore, how are we going to develop them to meet that we have to be with the challenges of the executive order that we have now, then in doing business in Nigeria? Then another question is this. There is a man that called, and he told his question that we have to be to Mr. Omana, that's the DG, and he was trying to ask that, look, in most of the countries that we have in the foreigners, you have those people that were not even educated. Then, but when brought to this country, then you see that we Nigerians are the ones teaching them. And I personally have gotten similar experience when I was working in Akwa Ibom State, in the Korabasi precisely, that ASCOM, where actually then you see people, you see Nigerians, even then that will have to be the management, that are in collaboration, that we have to be with these people to bring them in without any clear policy in dealing actually with them. Then from the Federal Ministry of Interior, then what are we going to do about this? Because there will still be a collaborator. Then by Nigerians, those who are the heads of the affairs. Then another question is this. Another person tried to ask from Port Harcourt or from whether I don't know. Then he was trying to ask that the quota system, just for an example, if a company is cited in Akwa Ibom State, you will see that the youth, the leaders, the government of Akwa Ibom State will say, give us 75% either of the middle level employee that the company is going to employ. Then that means that it has gone contrary to the quota system in Nigeria. How is this document has addressed the quota system that we have to this in Nigeria? Don't you see any conflict in this document with the quota system that we have in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you, Ajayi. Well, Ajayi has, I think his first shot, he tried to nail. Yeah. So can you respond to him?
The first thing that I want all of us to know is that it is never good to use taxpayers' money, to use the Commonwealth to profit a foreigner. A foreigner can bring his money into our country and say he wants to invest it. But it is not good to tell a foreigner to come and take contract to build road that has been on, the technology of building road has been on for over 6,000 years. What is different is the kind of machines that you use in doing it. So the point that this document is addressing, and I want to believe that, well, sometimes when you are broke, if you are courageous and intelligent, great things can happen. Now the government does not have this money for come one, come all, to come and take. So he now wants to use his citizens, okay, to do things because of the future. Because once this starts rolling, every other thing will settle. Because people will have job to do, they will not disobey the law. In fact, they will be too tired to do any militancy or whatever, because they are properly engaged. So, and they will have a reason for living in the free world rather than going to jail. So, the caller, what he said about, how prepared are you, capacity and all that, will you be asking your people what capacity, and then you go and bring a foreigner? What you should do is to train your own person, your citizen, to have the capacity. And that's what this document has addressed. Give you 5 years, whatever the technology is, to be able to ensure that that local capacity is developed for that person. Now, the other thing is that capital flight. We need to learn, all of us, for this to work. We need to start saving money. Saving money in the sense that we make government to waste money. For example, to be lawless, government will pay for, will increase the number of policemen. Any structure that is on for lawbreakers is just a waste. You are budgeting for people to, because the essential thing about development is for you and I to obey the laws. And if you do not have the attitude of obeying law, and you do not have the attitude of fishing out those who do not obey law, there's nothing the government can do. And that is what will drive this document. When you and I, when we obey the laws, the police will reduce, all the other paraphernalia of security, they will reduce. Government will have savings to be able to provide infrastructure. People will get jobs to do, and so on and so forth. So I want us to note that for the infrastructure level, we have more than enough capacity to do it. And like I said, wherever we notice any gap, we know where to find, the expertise to be able to bridge that gap. And the document also talked about this NOTAP. They are the ones, the agency for determining what capacity you need that is not available in this country. So, and we should work together with them. We're going to work together with them because the professionals that are concerned, both and the private sector, Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, NASIMA and all that, we are the ones to drive this. Nigerian Society of Engineers and the architects and those in the built environment, the professionals, we are the ones to drive this. Government alone cannot do it. The good thing is that when all of us come together, we accelerate the process, of getting to this goal. And what is the goal? To ensure that you consume what we produce, okay? We use what we produce, and then live well. So that none of our citizens will say that they want to go to another country. Because the 3 resources any country has is the human beings there, time, that is daybreak and day and night, and then the land. That's all.
Let me come back to Dr. Jumoke. You said you have a communication strategy. You could have a communication strategy, but if you don't have the experts to drive it, it may not work. Do you have the media component beyond the communication strategy? Because we say this, we have an agency of government that has offices in all the political wards in Nigeria, the National Orientation Agency. We have, for instance, let me be sentimental here, the Nigerian Television Authority with so many community stations spread across Nigeria. We have information officers at the federal, state, local government. We have, name it, are they involved? Because I see this product is a full-blown Nigerian product.
The Minister of Information and Culture is a member of the council. I think that rests the case. Okay. He coordinates the entire thing. He meets weekly with the Vice President, the entire presidency media team, and they push out the information as they deem fit. They set that policy. But that's part of why I'm here tonight. You know that you have the access to reach me anytime. Sure. Exactly because he's on the team, he's in charge of it fully. You hear about the project in everybody's speeches, is coordinated, and we disseminate information regularly. All the State House correspondents know about the project very well. They cover the council's meetings. And then we, as the Secretariat of the Council, we have stakeholder engagements across the country. We've been to Kaduna, we've been to Ogun State, we've been to Kano several times, we've been to Lagos several times, we've had sessions in Abuja. We're going to Gombe, we're going to Aba, we're going to a number of other places around the country. Because from July last year, we started working with state governments and the FCT. We made a presentation to the National Economic Council, also chaired by the Vice President. And the Excellencies liked the idea of coordinating ease of doing business the way the federal government has been doing it. They've also been having interventions at the state level. So now we're working in partnership, in tandem, to make sure that we're driving competitiveness and investor attractiveness across the country. So that has been going on since last year.
Okay, I'm happy Engineer Adekunle has said, Mukulu, we look forward to a day where a Nigerian who understands this whole thing will move up to a ministry, seek audience with the minister and say, this you are supposed to do, you are not doing right. So, what can we do about this?
Well, I believe that channel is already part of the mechanism.
But the path has been laid, the government has set it, now driving it is the problem.
That channel is already created, at least from the standpoint of the MDAs, because we have numbers on our website that those who are saved by us can call to complain. And our email is also there. They can send whatever they think they're not happy with. And it gets to me as chief executive, and immediate action is taken. That's at the level of the MDA. But I also know that the secretariats, they also have a channel to deal with complaints from members of the public and from the clients that the MDAs also save. So that channel is already provided.
Okay. I had a chat with the High Commissioner of India a few weeks ago. He said Nigeria could get it right in the agricultural sector. He said right now India is grappling with a population figure of 1.6 billion and they produce enough to consume and export. And I look forward to Nigeria grappling with a population of 180 million to also produce locally and export. This is a product. Well-intentioned. How do we get it right? I feel very excited about it.
Well, every Nigerian should feel very excited because if we get it right, every black man on earth get it right. And every African country is likely to get it right. So the reality, as I have said earlier, particularly if you juxtapose what you are saying relating to agricultural production, it is a very sad commentary if you look at the figures of what we are spending toward importing food items when we have millions and millions of hectares of arable agricultural land that is not being put into use. But now that the government has provided an enabling environment, at least it is now an opportunity for us to do what is right in the context of our resource endowment. Many people have been talking about advanced mechanized agriculture. It is not the right way to go. But we need advancement in the way we engage in our agricultural production. With a population of 180 million, we have so much resource endowment in terms of human beings. If you mechanize agriculture like what we are doing, what the developed countries have done, then certainly we may end up reducing the number of individuals that will be engaged in agriculture sector, which may end up becoming a problem. But what we need to do, and particularly in line with the opportunities provided as contained in the executive order for funding for technical education, is to see how do we now provide a platform for collaboration between the government, the private sector and the industry in the context of what is called triple helix model, so that we end up producing agricultural inputs and machines that will advance production but will intensively utilize our own labor endowments in such a way that we advance from the crude implement that we are having to modern agriculture, but not extremely sophisticated agricultural production. Honestly, this policy framework, if we work as a team, and I'm challenging professional associations in Nigeria to sit down, analyze every single aspect and component of this policy, and see what new partnerships and collaboration can they build for a better Nigeria of tomorrow.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I just to link off from challenging all professional organizations. As I sit here, I envision by tomorrow, you know, we have people who have mood swings. They will only switch. But it's local content that is running, you know. And you find portfolio engineers emerging from everywhere. I imagine business centers tomorrow blossoming with all kinds of letterheads, preparing for local content based on the way they understand it. So, is your war chest ready to take this? Because we imagine quacks emerging from everywhere.
We are very strategic in this thing, like Prof said last speaker. When, for example, on the 12th of January, my pre-investiture colloquium that was held, the topic was achieving strategies for achieving accelerated rural development in Nigeria. Because the way to go about it is to go backwards to the rural areas. Because number one, these rural area people, the residents, I should say, the communities, they have been putting their sweat capital to feed us, because food is the energy that you and I need. But I don't want to call us stupid, because it's a stupid thing to neglect those people who are feeding you. We don't give them anything. No infrastructure there, no water, no anything, no hospital, no education for them. Now, the engineers want to focus there and start building from there, because they are, okay, they don't want to give us the city. So let's go to the rural areas and maybe come back to the city. Now, and like I keep saying, I do not know any other country, well, outside Africa, that will call a foreigner and say, come and take contract. For what? Nobody. And you say your people cannot do it. Where do you want them to do it?
How do they start?
Yes.
How do
they start?
Yeah.
Even those people, how did they get there?
Yes.
And I like what Prof said. Do not imbibe this latest technology to do anything. Most of us over the years, what we do in this country is just to advertise other people's product for them.
Yes.
Hey, rice, common rice. You say, is this rice from here? This rice, you can go and eat it. Sometimes it tastes, I say no. Look, it's the height of stupidity. And that's why we are now broke. Let me tell you, most Nigerians living in the cities are broke. They don't have money. They are borrowing from here to there. That's why everybody wants to work somewhere where he will put his hand in the Commonwealth. And that is why this administration, fighting corruption seriously, is deterring this kind of thing. And the next thing, because you see, when you fight a particular way where people are, getting their well-being from, though it's illegal, you have to provide the legal way.
An alternative.
Yes,
Yeah,
an alternative.
certainly.
So when you want to go into production of crops now, agricultural products, well, like he said, do not use sophisticated equipment. That's one. Secondly, this document says add value to it. He says don't just take it raw and go. Let's see a way where you can just deposit one small machine in that environment to be able to add value, process it, package it, and then before shipping it out.
Let me hold you there. Let me take a Roman. I hope by the time we call you again, you would have shored up your position on the ranking now, because you're already doing well. That's why I'm sure you're here. So your last word.
Well, thank you very much. I will advise that Nigerians take advantage of the opportunities provided by these executive orders. Executive Order 3, for example, which deals with providing support for local content in public procurement. A circular was recently issued, I think last month, January, for the implementation of the executive order. And now, when agencies, MDAs advertise for contracts, part of the criteria now to qualify would be that companies must provide evidence that they are Nigerian companies. And MDAs, even at the point of preparing their estimates, must make provision to accommodate local content. And in the award of the contracts, there's also a specific provision, I think up to 60% provision for local content. But Nigerians must be prepared to take advantage of these opportunities. And again, you look at that list, there's some items on the list that MDS are prohibited from using foreign goods, foods and beverages, stationery, vehicles, pharmaceuticals, and so on and so forth. So let Nigerians take a second look and serious look at these executive orders and take full advantage of the opportunities provided.
The very last reaction, let me take on Dr. Jumoke. I know you have an M&E mechanism on ground, but let me see myself as an average Nigerian. I have complaints to make. How do I reach you?
A number of ways. You can reach me directly. We have an IBIS email address, but most importantly, and what we're encouraging, and I'll tell you why, the PEBEC.report web application, we've tested it for 2 months. We've been working with the back end of MDAs to make sure that 72-hour commitment time for solving. We've taken 8 MDAs from NAFDAC, SON, police, customs, taking 8 MDAs that frequently they have a lot of interaction with Nigerian public. And so it's open, it's on, you can go online right now, PEBEC.report. We want to hear directly from Nigerians. Yeah, we're tracking internally, but please give us the empirical data that we can use to really address the issues.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, I must at this time say, lady and gentlemen, like I said earlier, she was blessed among men, unlike a man blessed. It was nice having your thought with you. Tuesday Live today, sustained conversation on the executive order of the president and the governance in Nigeria. Must say we enjoyed a lot of thought, and I believe your input will be taken seriously. For those who called in and asked questions, I believe your thought will be taken seriously. And today we couldn't go onto the Twitter handle. We had some challenge. It was nice being there on Tuesday Live. Well, quickly, thank you all for being part of it.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Nigeria.
Yes. Always make time to be guest on Tuesday Live, because we discuss burning issues. Today we looked at the executive order by Mr. President. It's your product, it's our product. Be part of it, and together, indeed, Nigeria will move on to where the destination is supposed to be. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.